Hey, John.
Hey, Eric. How is the great state of Idaho tonight?
It's a lot of fun. It's nice to be on vacation.
That's cool. And you're not recording from the cab of your truck.
No, last year I recorded from from my truck because it was a lot noisier last year. There's a few fewer people here, and the living my in-laws rent a house, and the living room is empty, so I'm tucked away in a corner. So if there may be an occasional background noise, somebody getting something from the kitchen, but should work. Should work.
Did they
all
look
right.
at you askance? You have to go do what?
Well, no, they were all trying to help me find rooms in the house where it would work. Yeah. Well, this closet has this. I'm like, no, I don't think the closet's going to work. I'm
Oh, that's funny.
I'm on a nice cushy couch.
Well, I appreciate you being willing to, take time out of your busy vacation week to record a podcast with me.
Everybody's asleep, and I'm still awake. So
I guess that's true. It is an hour later there. I was going to say it's pretty early,
yeah,
but that's okay.
yep,
So you're having a good time?
yeah. We've got my boy and I did some mountain biking. We got him a mountain bike
I think you mentioned
for his
that.
birthday.
Yeah.
A little delayed it was for his birthday, but it took us a while to get it. And we went up this trail, and I knew he was not going to be excited about it, so we did the hard part of the trail first, kind of the more steep uphill part, and then it was about 2 miles kind of uphill.
Ooh.
It was about 500 feet elevation gain, and then a slow 3.5 mile kind of slow up and down, but leisurely down. And so he kind of hated the first 2 miles, and then said, "Oh, this isn't bad." It was a lot of fun. Done a little hiking.
What is the last 5 minutes? That's how you feel.
Exactly. It was fun though.
Well, I just got back from a little vacation myself. I think I mentioned the last week we recorded the day before we went down to Disneyland, and then I took a super long weekend in celebration of my wife's and my anniversary, and we went down to Disneyland
Congratulations.
with the kids and had a good time.
And Star Wars Land.
We did. Actually, we weren't sure. We were thinking we initially were planning on just doing the California side, but
Right.
basically before we left the house, we were like, well, come on, how could we go down there and not do that? So we did, and we didn't quite crash the gates right at opening time. I mean, we did. We did set the alarm for 6:30, but the kids were not super enthused at getting up, even for Disneyland. But anyway, I got up, I took a shower, I went and got everybody bagels and coffee, and I'm like, come on. But it's vacation. We have to go make the most of it. I don't think that I'd be a good person to have on vacation voluntarily, but it's okay. We had a good time. We crashed the doors and basically hustled through Disneyland all the way to the back corner for the new Star Wars Land or Galaxy's Edge, I guess it's called, and
Right.
Went straight to the ride, Smuggler's Run, I think it was called, and it did wind up still being quite a line. I mean, I think we wound up waiting for almost an hour, but it was kind of funny because we're literally running past not quite literally, speed walking past all of the other rides in the park that are no waits, running empty cars.
Empty. That's right.
But a whole train of people, and they've even got 2 of the 3 entries into Galaxy's Edge closed, and they force you to go the long way around just so everybody can kind of queue up and you don't have people coming from the other lands and kind of hitting halfway
Right.
through the line, which was
Right.
kind of, I thought, pretty funny. But it was good. And then they, I don't know, we're not the most, I was going to say we're not the most organized, but we pretty much did everything with fast passes. which meant that we just kind of bounced from land to land to land to land like a pinball in the bumpers of the pinball game. Because I mean, we had 24,000 steps on the Disneyland days. Because we were like, okay, my next fast pass is for Space Mountain or Hyperspace Mountain. So let's go all the way. Okay, my next one is for over here. Let's go over there. Oh, my next one, and they have the phone thing that you can get all the fast passes on the phone, which is really really kind of handy, kind of cool. And so anyway, that was fun. And they also had a single rider line for the Star Wars, and there are 6 people in it.
So did you do 4 single riders?
So Justin and I, my older boy and I, did a single rider as well. Andy wasn't feeling very well later on, which wasn't awesome. But anyway, a little bit of that green milk helped that, I think. They've got this green milk and blue milk in the land, which it's fun. Anyway, yep, a good time was had by all.
So the Smugglers whatever run, was it worth the hour wait?
Yeah. I'm happy. I'm totally happy we did it. They did a good job on it. I didn't think it was as well done as the Pandora ride. Pandora, because that was the last time we talked about Disney World on the podcast, was when literally was that a year and a half ago? Whenever that was, I went to Florida. That was a long time ago. I think Pandora was better, but the land is really cool, and the ride was great. The interactivity was interesting because they basically have you're either a pilot, and like the left pilot goes left and right, and the right pilot goes forward and back. So you kind of have to work together, and then there are gunners who are responsible for basically, pushing buttons to shoot ships. And then there are engineers that have to, quote unquote, fix things, which basically means push the buttons. But, to be honest, I think the button pushing made me look away from the screen that I really wanted to look at the screen. And so, I don't know. It wasn't bad. I was good. I was happy to do it a second time to kind of go and see if it was different. But it was fun. The one that Justin, I think, liked the most, for whatever crazy reason, I don't think it was my favorite for thrill-wise, but it was pretty good visually, was the Guardians of the Galaxy breakout on the California Adventure side, which is basically that Tower of Terror.
Tower of Terror. Yeah.
Yeah, yanking you up and dropping you down, and it was... I like fast rides, not necessarily just like free fall rides. But anyway, it was fun. it was a great weekend. So
good.
Yep.
Awesome.
Back to work this week.
Yeah.
Some of us are back to work this week. Sorry.
I still got a couple more days.
Hey, I threw a couple things in follow up. I don't know if you had anything else to add.
I didn't. I love... you know how much I like JavaScript. I do. So I enjoyed your follow-up.
Okay, so the first was a post that says, no way to prevent this, says only development community where this regularly happens. So this was yet another NPM vulnerability or issue. And that's a play on an Onion post.
Yep.
That is a regular recurrence in the United States. You're welcome to go read that if you'd like. But so it was totally sarcastic. But I really appreciate it. I totally thought you would appreciate it. But
I did very much so. Yes.
Yeah. But there were a couple other things about this that I thought were particularly interesting. The first of which was there's a list of recent incidents in here of things that have happened in the recent history with NPM. So it's kind of been most recent to the oldest. So the oldest is the left pad one that happened a couple of years ago. We talked about that a long time ago. I think we've talked about a couple of these. I know we talked about the one where the author of a popular package passed it on to an unknown developer who added malicious code to it. But so this latest thing was there was malicious code in the PureScript npm installer. But the second thing, so there's a number of links if you're interested in reading the Cacophony of Catastrophes. But the other nice thing about here is the guy who wrote this, I think originally just had the very short sarcastic post, but then he sort of edited it afterwards to say, well, he's received some personal threats in response to this parody, which, whatever, that's crazy. But he was like, well, what would you do to fix it? So he has some things in here that are, reasonable set of items. I mean, it's not like this is ground that hasn't been trod by every other major language. Perl has CPAN, Python has pip, Rust has cargo. Anyway, there's you need a package manager for a language because that's where packages go, and that's how you share source code in many cases. But anyway, the other thing that I thought was really cool in here was that there's a link that he had to a proposal for JavaScript to actually add a standard library to JavaScript itself. And I loved the line. It said, quote from the article is, quote, which would reduce the amount of one-liner packages, which drives me insane. Yeah.
That reminds me, I think you retweeted something from Scott Hanselman about Hello World 2019, and it was trying to do Hello World with JavaScript and NPM 4,000 packages later.
Right. Here's 100,000 lines of
You
code.
can now print Hello World.
It's absolutely hysterical. I would be crying if I wasn't laughing so hard. Anyway, so I read a little bit about the spec out there, and he says that it's been met with contempt by many JavaScript community members. I don't know. I didn't read the discussion or discussions. I'm not active in JavaScript, even though I kind of like to tease you about it. But having a standard library for JavaScript would make a ton of sense. So I thought that was interesting. And then the final thing I wanted to pull out of this one was one of the incidents I didn't remember seeing, but it was a NPM suddenly fails worldwide with error 418. I'm a teapot, which I was like, what? I don't remember that. And so I went and read it. And so it was last year. So this isn't a recent thing, but the issue was that evidently, in HTTP, when you make an HTTP request, you add a host header. And I know about this because at one point in time, like a couple years ago, I was having to implement an HTTP client like from scratch, and I couldn't figure out why things weren't working when I was just connect. And it turned out, I'm down in Wireshark going, what the hell is going wrong? And it turned out that host is a required header as of HTTP 1.1 or something like that. It's been a couple of years, so I don't remember the details. But anyway, the funny thing here is that some NPM clients, namely ones behind a proxy, were adding the port to the host header for whatever reason. And because the reason why there's a header at all is because you can have multiple virtual hosts sharing the same physical server, and you want the server to be able to know who you making this request of. So anyway, So the host, if you did the host header with a :port at the end of it, like some of the NPM clients were doing when behind a proxy, the server side of NPM was the thing that was failing with the 418. I'm a teapot. Anyway, I thought that was pretty funny, and I guess I didn't look up the HTTP error. What is HTTP?
It's an actual RFC. RFC 2324, the Hypertext Coffee Pot Control Protocol. It was put in on April 1st, so an April Fool's joke back in 1998.
Oh my gosh, I did not remember that.
IETF and everything. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole protocol around,
Oh my gosh, how do I not know about that?
It's got languages and, it supported languages, how to make it go through firewalls, security considerations. It's a whole official RFC.
Oh, dude.
2324.
Fantastic.
So,
how do I not know about that? My memory's gone. Maybe I need what will be my something fun later. Okay. So, anyway, okay. So that is fantastic. I didn't realize that. So somebody on the server side hit a weird error and was just, we're going to throw the 418 error code. That's fantastic.
Yeah, the April Fools.
The April Fool's error code. Okay. Well, I that's even better now that you have educated me about that. I think that's even better.
Right.
Okay. The second semi-follow-up, I guess, for me was I read an article this week about Apple adding the documentation for the hardened application runtime entitlements. And there wasn't a ton of information on the article that I read, but I know that maybe not a couple of years ago, last year, I think it was, they kind of relaxed some of the App Store requirements to get there's a lot of popular apps that had left the App Store or were not coming to the App Store because of multiple reasons. Obviously Apple has a big cut of that there, but one of the reasons was because of the sandboxing requirements that were in place. And so this was, is this the next level of this? I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit. The app sandboxing is turning your Mac app into essentially an iOS app, but I think Apple figured out, or at least the Apple development community
made it clear.
Made Apple aware of the fact that people don't generally run iOS-style apps on the Mac. If they wanted an iOS-style app, they'd run it on an iPad or an iPhone, where the Mac app itself is running on the Mac because it needs to do things outside of the sandbox. Mm-hmm. And so Apple introduced the hardened runtime in this whole app notarization, because you had to, at one point in the App Store, you had to have your app running in a sandbox. But a lot of things, FTP clients, a lot of very useful and valuable tools, you couldn't ever get in the App Store. Or if you did get them in the App Store, they were limited in what they could be done outside of the App Store. So I think Apple has now followed on with this concept of notarized apps. And if you wanted to deliver in the App Store, you had to have an app sandbox, and you had a fixed set of things that you could access. You could only access the downloads folder, the pictures folder, if you asked for them, things like that. Where the hardened runtime allows you a little bit more flexibility. Are you going to disable memory protection? Do you need to have load libraries or frameworks signed by other developers? There's a number of things that your runtime can do in a hardened runtime but you still have to get those notarized by Apple if you want to deliver them outside the App Store.
So a notarized app, why do I have to notarize an app so it can get past Gatekeeper?
I believe so. The notarizing of the app.
So, I mean, because I sign an app with my own developer key, but notarizing signs it a second time with Apple's key, right?
Right. So that it can get past Gatekeeper and is approved by Apple, and if something goes haywire with whatever you have, Apple can kill it remotely, like they did something on the lines of the Zoom app that we chatted about last week, I think. Right. So notarization gives users more confidence that the developer ID signed software you distribute has been checked by Apple for malicious components. Notarization is not app review. It just scans it for malicious content. Okay, so that was the point of notarized app, is because developer IDs were being either hijacked or stolen or used. So this notarization was uploaded to Apple. Apple's going to scan it for any code issues, any malicious software, malicious content potentially inside of the app, and then allows the notary service that Apple runs will also, it says, publish a ticket online where Gatekeeper can find it, so that when Gatekeeper launches your app for the first time, it can check, oh, I see that, yes, it was signed by this developer key, and it was notarized by Apple. So the notarization piece also helps protect you if your developer ID gets exposed, because they would have to steal your developer ID and then still get apps notarized through Apple. So,
okay.
Anyways.
Well, that's cool. I noticed at the bottom of this page there's something about preparing your app to work with pointer authentication. So I feel like I have some more homework I want to do at some point.
Yeah.
Ooh. Cool. Okay. Let's get on into topics. What do you got for me tonight?
Okay, so my topic is more, I guess, probably some review. We've talked a lot also about, the green lock icon and how important the lock icon is, and how in the past, people have been trained to just look for the lock icon or a green lock icon, and slowly developers and browser manufacturers are going away from this concept of the lock icon, because all the lock icon means in the browser is that the traffic is encrypted somewhere. It doesn't mean the website isn't malicious. And now that there are services to get free certificates to encrypt your content, it even has less of an indication that you're talking to a safe site. The lock icon has nothing to do with safe. It just has to do with the traffic is encrypted. Well, there is a friend of Troy Hunt. We've talked about Troy Hunt a number of times on the show. Scott Helm. He also works on a lot of this stuff. And he's got a whole Twitter thread here about a publication from a university cyber forensic innovation lab on the importance of extended validation certificates. Now, what an extended validation certificate is instead of it saying lock icon and then your website, it says lock icon and the name of your company. And browsers have started to go away with this. Everybody started to go away with this, or to stop using this, because it really is no different. If you look at, your iPhone, your iPhone used to say, when you would go to PayPal.com, for example, it would show you PayPal Inc., secure, green text, PayPal Inc. It doesn't do that anymore. It just shows you lock icon, PayPal.com.
Yeah.
So it's starting to go away with this. But this Twitter thread here is basically going through this university's documentation on why extended validation certificates are great, and kind of picks it apart, and even shows that the document there says extended validation is, important because it will help users will be indicated that the browser could be trusted because it's a extended validation certificate. But right inside the extended validation certificate documentation, it says it doesn't mean that it's a trustworthy, honest, or reputable in business dealings. It just means it's been secured. And so most companies are going away with it. If you look at the top 10, 20, 30, whatever it is, websites, they don't even use extended validation. Amazon, Twitter, Google, the people who you would think would want to use extended validation certs don't, because it's not as big a deal, I think, as it's being made out to be. And these are ridiculously expensive for something that you can essentially get for free.
Yeah.
With using services like Let's Encrypt.
Yeah.
So this for me, and then I also found an article from a year ago from Troy Hunt, basically calling the extended validation certificates, calling their death, the end of extended validation certificates, and giving reasons why, very well thought through and laid out. And still, here we are a year later, and there's people still trying to make money on extended validation certificates through they're unnecessary. So
that would be
in my
nacho certificate vendor. No, sorry.
So we could put both those links in the show notes. But if you do have a company and you're trying to determine, should I use an extended validation certificate or how should I do that? And I think some of the funny things is a lot of this company's videos that tout companies who are doing customer testimonials. If you go look at what those customer testimonials, the websites, what certs they're using now, they're not using extended validation anymore. So, anyways. Not a big topic, not a long topic, just kind of a reminder that...
Yeah. Well, you can get a certificate just because it just means that the data it doesn't say anything necessarily about what's on the other side. You could have Amazon.comedy and get a good green lock for it.
All it means is that between your browser and that server you're hitting, the traffic is encrypted. So that's really all it means.
And it doesn't even mean that it's not being decrypted and re-encrypted in between there with a trusted certificate. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, that's a good article though, and a good thing to kind of be aware of too. And I don't know, I kind of like having the actual addresses in the tops of bars. It's one of the things. I'm looking at a Safari window on the right side of my screen and a Chrome window on the left side of my screen at the moment. Safari doesn't actually have the URL in there unless you put the focus in it. Whereas Chrome still does. I like the URLs, but old man yells at cloud.
Well, yeah. Even still, you got to be careful with extended characters in the URL. So it's a, mostlysecurity.com with the O with the little dot underneath it or something.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
So if you're going to a website, if you get an email saying, here, click here to log into your account, don't click there. Go to the browser, type in the URL manually, and you're off and running.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I guess we should at least probably mention that we're not really going to talk about the Capital One thing this week. I mean, that was the big thing that happened this past weekend, but I don't know. There was a bunch of info about it. The one thing that everyone seemed to be crazy about is the fact that they said nobody's accounts or SSNs were disclosed except for 140 some thousand,
right.
which was
yeah. Well, that's when with the follow up on the no way to prevent this as the only development community where this regularly happens.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of initially when I just saw the headline.
Oh.
I thought it was about that. Like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's more fun.
I mean, that's probably the biggest story of the weekend. Was that disclosure, and there's a lot of nuance there because it was a AWS developer, et cetera, et cetera. I should. Oh man, did you see the other tweet? Sorry, I tweeted about the IAM complexity.
Yeah,
because that.
There's something like there's 30 people on the planet that know how that works.
Exactly.
I believe
I thought
it.
that you would appreciate that because the special thing in there was, if you're on an EC2 instance, you can hit a local server like the IAM token is available to you from the instance, and if that token has rights more than it should, which it's almost impossible to have the least privilege given the complexity of IAM, that's sort of where the core root is, right? If you have a token that gives read-write access to all of your S3 buckets, and then somebody cracks one of your EC2 instances, gets the token, now they can access all of your S3 buckets.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was kind of the tricky root of that one, which is, IAM is complicated. But there was, anyway, maybe I'll go ahead and throw a link into here for that Colin Percival post from 2016 that I really, really liked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a good one. So the other one I pulled out was actually a drop of iOS vulnerabilities from Project Zero. Mm-hmm. So did you look at this one? Did you read any of these?
I had not before. Nope, I hadn't till just earlier.
Yeah, so these were 6 vulnerabilities. I think it was 6 vulnerabilities that were disclosed. They were fixed in iOS 12.4. So update to 12.4 ASAP if you're an iOS person, because all of the disclosed ones of these that were fixed have proof of concept code in the CVEs. So it would be a good idea to update iOS ASAP.
Yeah.
So one of the 6 was not disclosed. It was kept private because it was not fully fixed in iOS 12.4. So presumably there will be a 12.4.1 sometime in the next couple weeks, I would guess, that has another fix, and then we'll see what CVE 2019-8641 is. But I actually clicked through most of these and kind of browsed them. I thought they were in general pretty easy to read from a developer standpoint, but my sort of observation is that they were mostly serialization issues. 4 of the 6 bugs can lead to execution of malicious code with no user interaction. So that's the reason
that's
they
the creepy part of that one.
Severe. Yeah. So all an attacker needs to do is send a malformed message to a victim's phone, and the malicious code will execute once the user opens and views the received item. And so they're using iMessage to, in most of the cases here. And there's basically a run it script in here. Actually, I forget what they actually called it. Yeah, there we go. Send message. That was a lot of them have a send message Python script that you edit it to replace the number that you want to crash with the number that you're testing, and then run it. And so that's not good. So anyway, so 4 of them can lead to execution, and the 5th and 6th they say can it says can allow an attacker to leak data from the device's memory and read files off a remote device, also with no user interaction. So all pretty severe bugs. I guess I didn't notice what the CVE score on these were, but or CVSS score.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
But anyway, the point here is, if you read a couple of these, they seem to be mostly around, like I said, serialization. So for example, the one that I thought I kind of had pulled out was 8647, and this says, so the point is when deserializing a class with init with coder, subclasses of that class can also be deserialized so long as they don't override the init with coder, and they implement all the methods that require concrete implementation. So, but _PF array, which I presume is, I don't know what PF array is, but it's a subclass of NS array, and when PF array is deserialized, it's deserialized with the NS array init with coder. So eventually, blah blah blah. The point of this is that it will initialize objects, but not retain references to them, so that when they're released, the objects will be released, and then you can have dangling references from the user of the deserialized object. So you'll cause a crash easily. So that's the basically a use after free option. And a lot of these seemed like they were, they'd found 1 or 2 kind of classes of bugs, and then they must have used some automated tools to scan for classes that met the criteria where they had, implemented a particular interface, but not overridden the parent method, that kind of thing. So, anyway, the researchers who released these are doing a Black Hat presentation, so I'll probably try to watch that if and when it's posted, because that might be interesting. So, but anyway, I thought this was a good article. It's a ZDNet article.
Well, that's cool. So, as it is getting a little late for me, should we jump into the fun part?
Okay. Yep. Tell me something fun. What'd you do today?
So today we went to Redfish Lake. So Redfish Lake is a little lake out in the middle. If Idaho looks like I don't know. I don't know what Idaho looks like.
Right,
looks like a hatchet standing on its head.
New Fish Lake.
Redfish. It's the Dr. Seuss Lake.
Exactly.
Anyways, we go there every year, just do a day trip up there. It's about a little over an hour from where we stay with the family. And it's a kind of like a long, skinny lake. It's about 5 miles long. And we go up there, we rent a boat.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And then we go... And we go to one end of the lake and the other, and we let the kids drive the boat. It's just a boat you can rent from the place. It's not super fancy, and we just kind of take the boat out to one end and get back to the other. Let the kids drive the boat, and this time, and we take chairs. There's a beach-ish area and kind of a lodge, and there's cabins around. You can stay there, but it's just a beautiful lake. It's at 6,500 feet above sea level. Anyway, so this time when we went there, we get there and we go rent the boat and we go out, and we had enough of us. We could only fit 6 people in the boat, and so we went out and we were going to come back and do it again. And we come back and get in, and the power had gone out from all the area. They have a restaurant and kind of a general store that has ice cream and other things, and their power had gone out, so they were running on backup generator. And so they couldn't allow us to take the boat out again because they couldn't gas it up, because the gas pumps were not working because the power was out. So, but we still hung out, played in the water. There were still rented kayaks or the big paddle boards. What are they called? Is it paddleboard?
Yeah, stand-up paddleboards.
Yeah, you stand up on the paddleboard, and so the kids did that and played in the lake, trying to catch the little fish that come too close to shore.
That's awesome.
Anyways,
that's a gorgeous.
It was a great
lake.
time.
At least the picture in the Wikipedia link.
Yes, it is. It's as pretty as the pictures show it, and it's anyway. So that's a. I don't know if I want to call it a family tradition, but it's getting close to being one. When we come out and have a great time. So my whole, I guess my fun part here is get out, enjoy nature. It's run by the Forest, or in conjunction with the Forest Service and the Sawtooth National Forest. So it's a lot of fun.
That's fun.
We had a great time. Fun to get outdoors, and the great thing out there too is there is no cell service.
Oh,
so you're out there. No way to be distracted.
Even the teenagers can't be on the phones, huh?
Exactly. It was fun time had by all. So,
that's cool.
My plug for getting outdoors again, which I think is my same plug for last year when I recorded in the car.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go listen. I don't remember.
That was pretty close. I'm actually feeling pretty bad because I haven't been out camping even once this summer, which I've got to. I think I got a plan for the weekend of August 25th, but that might be the only time I go out camping this summer, which is going to be sad. Going to be sad. Okay, so my something fun this week. I thought that I pulled out this article, which was a potential Alzheimer's vaccine, and I thought this was a very cool article. So I don't know if you had a chance to read this. Probably not.
I did not. I guess I'd never associated a vaccine with Alzheimer's.
Right. It is
like the concept of vaccine. My brain isn't making the connection there.
Well, you basically want to trick your white blood cells into thinking that the cells. Let's see. There's a couple of proteins in Alzheimer's, although we don't. Let's see. You're making me pull quotes out of my order. But although we don't know much about Alzheimer's, researchers believe its effects are caused by two rogue proteins, beta amyloid and tau. High amounts of both are found in the brains of people with Alzheimer's. So beta amyloid was discovered in 1984, with tau identified 2 years later. And so this basically takes the beta amyloid and this is a really cool article. It's really long, but let's see, you're pulling me out of order here. But basically, the vaccine targets the beta amyloid, that a small portion of it, and the vaccine basically teaches the white blood cells to attack the malformed beta amyloid, and then it will go in and kind of clean up and keep the protein from being there, from progressing. And let's see. So a couple of things here. So I pulled out a couple quotes. So first of which is, I didn't realize it was this, but there was a quote in here, and this is a UK link from Wired. So it says the disease has risen to become the leading cause of death for women and the second leading cause for men in the UK. Wow. That's a direct quote. So I'm I'm skeptical.
Huh.
I thought heart disease was worse. But maybe that's an American thing. So anyway, that was a quote that I was like, what? I have to pull that out. And then, so this was the quote that I pulled out that's kind of related to what you were asking. It says, because Chang Yi, that's the scientist who is the primary inventor, because Chang Yi was introducing small chains of amino acids synthetically created for specific roles in the immune process, essentially just triggering B cells to make antibodies, they don't trigger inflammation. Oh, so that's the thing. There's, the body's immune response triggers inflammation, which causes the cells to be trapped there due to swelling. And then the second one is the B cells to actually attack with antibodies. And so there was a quote in here that said, in the last 10 years, 100 potential drugs have been abandoned once they got to clinical trials. So don't hold your breath against this either, I would say. But this is it's a very long article. You should totally go read it. But the other quote I pulled out of here was, so in January 2019, the company announced the first results from a phase 2 trials in 42 human patients. And it said we were able to generate some antibodies in all patients, which is unusual for vaccines. We're talking about almost 100% response rate. So far, we've seen an improvement in 3 out of 3 measurements of cognitive performance. And but 42 patients is not a large trial. And there's another quote in here that says, because phase 2 trials are so small, there's no statistically valid evidence yet. But the lack of serious side effects is a big step forward, because it's the side effects that have caused the other 100 primarily to be abandoned.
Got it.
And so, and then the final thing I guess I pulled out of here, but what she's using to target, and there's some early info in here about exactly what it was that she's doing, epitopes, which anyway, read the article. She's able to basically reuse the same type of work against other diseases as well. So there's Parkinson's that's going into stage 1 trials, and there was a third one they said targeting tau, and this is evidently why the Department of Defense was interested in this, because the tau proteins, which is the second protein that I mentioned earlier, along with the beta amyloid, tau is also found in soldiers and athletes who face repeated or significant head injuries. So if you can imagine, maybe this is such a terrible thought, but I guess since I had it, maybe I should say. So this is how we'll get like funding for this, is so that people can keep their American football.
Yeah, or boxing, or what's UFC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's why I never thought of this as a vaccine. When you said vaccine, in my head, I'm going, well, there's polio, there's measles, there's, I guess I didn't consider brain injuries in that same vein.
Yeah.
But I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it's the same general concept. You teach the body what to fight.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point. Yeah. Anyway, that's my something fun. I thought it was a good article.
I will have to read that, because I have family members who had Alzheimer's, and I was younger at the time, but yeah.
All right. Well, we'll end on a somber note, but hopefully. Yeah. All right. Let's call it a show, Eric.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Have a good night.
Enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Yeah. Talk to you next week.